Come on, puppy. You want to be on YouTube? Come on. Come on. Yes, you do. You want to be on YouTube? Whoop, 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 whoop. Jump, 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 jump. You ready? Want to be on YouTube? You ready? Hup, 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 hup. All right, here we go. This little 12 volt, 110 volt, 4500 psi airgun compressor will just as happily fill airguns as it will airgun bottles. Why is that? Because it's liquid cooled. Coming up. AEAC is made possible by Air Venturi, Hawk Optics, Diana Airguns, FX Airguns, Daystate, Air Arms, Sports Match Rings UK, H&N Sport, Aztec Optics, and JSB Predator Pellets. And you guys know the best way to thank them. At $840 and 28 pounds, the Omega Trail Charger is on the high and heavy end for portable airgun compressors. But it also possesses features and performance that put it out ahead of the pack. Self-contained liquid cooling keep the charge cool, fast, and reliable, something that can't be said for the competition. The onboard radiator and water pump also mean that the Trail Charger can reliably fill airgun bottles. And that's just part of the story. It does it with a surprising amount of speed. Its included 12 volt 110 volt converter will allow you to plug it into the wall, but it'll fill just as quickly hooked up to your car, and that could mean a lot to you when you're out at the range, cabin, or out hunting. The fill whip is metal coil protected and comes with its own male Foster fitting test plug. It's also rotatable. The test plug is there so that you can run a test sequence on the Trail Charger's automatic shutoff. You can set this auto shutoff to any PSI between 0 and 4,500. Once that PSI is reached, the Trail Charger will automatically stop pumping. Throwing the master switch turns on the water pump and radiator fan. When you first start the compressor, you want the bleed valve open to reduce load on the pump, and after a few strokes you can close it. If you're gonna leave the machine unattended, before each fill, run a test fill with the test plug in. It only takes a few seconds. Just be sure to choose a realistic PSI. Bleed the valve and remove the test plug. Now you're ready to fill for real. The Hatsan Hydra's practical operating range is 150 to 200 bar, so we'll start there. Just over a minute, and the Hydra's back in the game.
Your trail charger will arrive filled with coolant. Well, mostly full. With the pump running, open the coolant cap. Ensure that the coolant level is up to the bottom of the coolant return hole. If it's not, top off with an automotive 50-50 mixture or distilled water. If you feel like it, turn it upside down and dump it out to replace it every 5 years or so. $180 cc's and a third more pressure takes a bit longer. When you open the bleed valve, do so quickly. This will purge any accumulated moisture in the system, keeping your air charge dry-ish. For more perspective on that topic and to partake in my discovery and approach as I learn my way through the trail charger, feel free to join me on my second YouTube channel, AEAC Vlog. I'll share things there that won't make it here, so for the full story, you'll want to watch that video as well.
Because it doesn't have those O-rings that I have to keep oiled or they're going to get tore up, right? But remember I shared with you I didn't like this because it was hard to turn and it was tough on the fingers. Well, they've gone to this new one here in the hallway. You can see this, okay? It's about twice the width, so it's easier to grab onto. It's made of brass, so it's knurled, so it's got that like spongy squish when you close it, you know, and so it's just going to be a lot easier. So that's an upgraded part. Big yoke on the top. I will tell you, you can see it's missing the DIN receiver up here, which means it's also missing. It has just a Foster. You dirty dog. It has just the Foster fill right here without all of this jazz, which means it doesn't have a flow restrictor in it, which I actually kind of like because flow restrictors drive me freaking bananas. As much as I appreciate them because I don't want to hurt, I don't know, an inexpensive air gun that doesn't have some kind of measure of its own like that, or I don't want to accidentally overfill like an air pistol. You know, they're good for that. But there's no flow restrictor on this. So when I turn this bad boy, all right, that's moving some air. So it's something you want to be mindful of. Avid air gunners prefer this. Now, I have the control. I have control over it. Okay, what's nice is, okay, I have the control. It's kind of like having 500 horsepower on tap. You know, driving around in like the Corvette, and you don't use it a lot of the time, but it's nice to know it's there if you want to use it. So I don't use a desiccant filter. I know when you go on the forums, the hardcore air gunners,
You know, it's kind of like a rite of passage having the inline desiccant filter, which is basically one of these guys. It sucks up any remaining moisture in the line. But the reality of my world is a little bit more grounded, and this we're going to get into some of the controversial stuff here. And it's not so much that moisture won't and can't hurt your air gun or bottle, because it can. But the reality is, when you talk to the manufacturers of the air guns themselves, that they build these air guns to be moisture proof on the inside. At least most of them do. That doesn't mean that all of them, you know, have all of the best components on the inside. There is some brass out there, but most of them are using aluminum and stainless steel and, you know, these types of things. So they're pretty darn impervious to moisture damage. Now, I'm not saying there aren't cases of moisture damage out there. We've all read on the forums where you take apart some 10-year-old air gun that was not terribly expensive and the brass valves all chewed up from corrosion and these types of things. That can happen, but the reality is that that's more the exception than the rule. When you really look at this from the top down, from an airgun manufacturer's perspective, how many guns come back due to moisture over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And the reality is that it's really a non-issue. You know, when you look at all the guns they assemble. Now you go to a forum and, yeah, but I've read about it 10 times over on the forums. Well, the 10 times you've read about it, of the 10 million air guns that have been sold, you know, over the last 5 years, that's kind of how they look at it. So I share that with you because if you have tons of money and you want to buy one of these, go for it. No harm nor foul. I'm very happy for you. But I don't want somebody new coming along feeling like they have to buy an inline desiccant filter or a little cigarette filter to help with the moisture, because these machines really do a good job of purging that out of the system. Every 4 to 6 hours, rotate the grease knob one full turn. You'll know you've done so with a haptic click pronounced through the fingertips. It all feels rather posh, as does the machine as a whole. It actually kind of surprised me for the price point. For just a little bit more money, you get a lot more compressor. And Omega's not new. They've been around for 12 years and have a very good name. Here on the channel, I've been using their supercharger then turbocharger exclusively. With about 35 hours on the first and 25 on the second, they've performed flawlessly for me. And I've put them through quite a bit, keeping the channel going. The new trail charger here has been out about a year, and the ownership reports I've read have all been positive. Its quality of feel, fit and finish, speed, and reduced noise output have all been a significant step above other compressors I've reviewed here that have been in the $500 to $700 price point. So if you're willing to go a little bit further, you're gonna get a lot more. And you're gonna get a 12 volt, 110 volt liquid cooled portable that can also fill your airgun bottle. That's the big takeaway here. And that's what I've seen airgunners asking for years. Now where was I? Oh yeah, the only other maintenance you've got to worry about is keeping the grease pot full. I've yet to come even close to emptying it on the supercharger and turbocharger. And I'd say that even after all those hours, it's still over 80% full. But the trail charger and those other compressors do ship with a spare syringe of grease, among a bunch of other stuff that I still have yet to use. If there's a discrepancy between your gauges and your autofill comes up a little short, simply make a minor adjustment to your auto shutoff knob and resume. On that note, the only thing I wasn't wild about with the trail charger is the size of this knob and gauge. It's a stiff, heavy turn, which is a good thing because it'll keep it in place. But being that the knob is so small, this can be a bit of a challenge, as can reading the little gauge. But its overall feel and function comes across as that of being good quality. Having just 14.5 volts on hand didn't slow the trail charger down one bit. In fact, it sped it up. In both my tests. I'm not sure if this has to do with the heat of the automobile engine or the fact that we've ditched the converter. But either way, the Hydra and the Wildcat both tested out faster, by 6 seconds and 9 seconds respectively. By the way, for those of you that live in other parts of the world, the converter has an internal 110-220 switch for you. Simply unscrew the cover, make the change, and you're good to go. But based on these tests, I might be hunting down the car more often than not. Oh, and I almost forgot. You can lay the trail charger down flat and run it in this position, making it just that much more versatile. The first thing to remember when filling such a large bottle is that the trail charger has a duty cycle of 30 minutes work, 20 minutes rest, which means that for 30 minutes of every continuous operation, you need to let it cool down for 20. Now the interesting thing is that I did this, and during the 20-minute rest periods, I let the fan motor run and the water pump circulate. And I noticed that a minute or two into each 20-minute rest period, the fan motor was no longer blowing warm air. I don't know if this is because I was running the unit indoors in 72-degree air conditioning, or if the trail charger's liquid cooling is really just that efficient. Either way, it's always best to follow the manufacturer's instructions, but I thought this was worth mentioning. The other thing you want to remember is to open up your tank's valve slowly. That way, the differentiating pressures have a moment to equalize gently. Actual running fill time to get the 75 cubic foot Patriot from 3,000 to 4,500 psi was just an hour and 10 minutes. Total actual runtime to include two 20-minute cooldowns and some fiddling about was an hour and 51 minutes. The speed at which the $840 trail charger refills has really surprised me. Back in 2016, when I reviewed the $1,600 supercharger, it took about 90 minutes to do about the same with a 100 cubic foot tank. For comparison, the $2,000 turbocharger that I'm using now and reviewed back in 2018 will take that 100 cubic foot from 3,000 to 4,500 in about 27 minutes. Point is, for an $840 little guy that's actually more versatile and easier to move around, it kind of bumps out the $1,600 middle guy. Sure, the $1,600 supercharger is still faster, but the trail charger represents the better value. It might just appeal to more people anyway. This is a solid home run for a Mega, and the line as a whole has really impressed. Speaking of good values, the 75 cubic foot Omega Patriot is another one. It's made in America, comes with the new HP3 valve, 2 gauges, the kinkless fill whip, with extra long stainless Foster fittings. I talk about it quite a bit in my vlog. And long story short, I'll be taking the new valve off it and putting it on my 100 cubic foot. I'd hold on to the tank as well, but it'd be wasteful to have two. Anyway, for more details on that and more, be sure to check out the vlog. That's all for today, folks. And special thanks to Airguns of Arizona for getting the Omega Trail Charger, Patriot Tank, and HP3 valve into my hands to review for you. You guys know the best way to thank them for that one. Now from here, y'all want to head on over to the Airgun Nation forum so that you can participate in the discussion thread on the Trail Charger, Patriot, and HP3. I'll leave you instructions on how to get there in the description down below. So with that, I'm Steve Shalley. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great week, everyone.